The Veskari fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of metallic locusts, their obsidian hulls absorbing what little starlight reached this far corner of the galaxy. Admiral Rylax stood on the command deck of the flagship Inevitable Conquest, his four eyes narrowing with anticipation as the small blue-green planet appeared on the view screen. This is it? This is the world that has resisted 3 galactic empires? Rylax's secondary voice box emitted a sound approximating laughter. It looks insignificant. Do not underestimate them, Admiral, cautioned Science Officer Maexi, her tentacles dancing across holographic displays. The humans have surprised every species that attempted to subjugate them. Rylax dismissed her concerns with a flick of his armored wrist. The Kryvax Empire fell because of poor strategy. The Jolnari collective failed due to technological limitations, and the hegemony— He paused, mandibles clicking. They were weak. The Veskari are none of these things. The conquest of Earth was considered the final piece in the Veskari's galactic dominance puzzle. For centuries, they had expanded outward from their home system, consuming resources and subjugating species. Their technology was unmatched, their warriors bred for combat, their tactics perfected across 1,000 battlefields. Humans, by comparison, were fragile creatures confined to a single planetary system. Their technology was primitive, their military forces disunited, their history filled with petty conflicts amongst themselves. Yet somehow, they had repelled every attempt at conquest. "Begin the standard protocol," Rylax ordered. "Neutralize their orbital defenses, destroy military installations, and establish landing zones for ground forces. I want this planet secured within 72 hours." The Veskari war machine activated with brutal efficiency. 5,000 ships moved into formation, weapon systems coming online, targeting computers, identifying Earth's defensive satellites and stations. Commander Viridian, Drake stood in the observatory of Lunar Base Alpha, watching as the alien armada approached. At 45, his weathered face had seen 3 extraterrestrial invasion attempts. Each time, humanity had survived by the skin of their teeth, adapting and overcoming seemingly impossible odds. "How many?" he asked, his voice steady despite the implications of what they were witnessing. Lieutenant Kira Novak checked her tablet. 5,000 capital ships at minimum, sir. Energy signatures suggest they're running weapons hot." Drake nodded grimly. "So the Veskari have finally decided to pay us a visit." "Sir, shouldn't we evacuate? The lunar base doesn't have adequate defenses against a fleet that size." "No," Drake replied, his eyes fixed on the approaching ships. "We need to gather as much intelligence as possible. Alert Earth Defense Command. Tell them to initiate Protocol Lazarus." As Novak hurried to the communications station, Drake continued watching the alien fleet. Unlike previous invaders who had announced their intentions or demanded surrender, the Veskari simply attacked. The first salvo of energy weapons tore through Earth's orbital defense platforms like they were made of paper. Within minutes, the planet's first line of defense was reduced to floating debris. The Veskari methodically targeted military installations. Next, precision strikes from orbit eliminating air bases, naval ports, and army headquarters across the globe. Drake's communicator chimed. On the screen appeared the stern face of Admiral Elara Feng, Supreme Commander of Earth's Unified Defense Forces. "Commander Drake, I assume you're watching this unfold?" "Yes, Admiral. It appears the Veskari aren't interested in diplomacy." "They never are," Feng replied grimly. "Protocol Lazarus is active. All surviving military units are going dark. Civilian evacuations to the deep shelters are underway." Drake nodded, understanding the implications. Unlike previous invasions where Earth had fought conventionally, Protocol Lazarus was different. It was humanity's contingency plan for an overwhelming force, a strategy born from centuries of warfare against themselves and decades of studying alien tactics. "What about the Prometheus project?" Drake asked quietly. Admiral Feng's expression hardened. Authorization granted. May whatever gods exist have mercy on us all, because we're about to show the Veskari that they know nothing about destruction. Earth's surface, as cities burned and civilians rushed to underground bunkers, a select group of scientists accessed secure facilities buried beneath mountains and deserts. Within these hardened installations lay humanity's darkest secrets. Weapons technologies deemed too dangerous to use against fellow humans, experimental systems that blurred the line between science and madness. The Prometheus Project was about to be unleashed. Admiral Rylax observed the destruction with detached satisfaction. The first phase of the invasion was proceeding exactly as planned, Earth's conventional defenses crumbling under the Veskari onslaught. Tactical displays showed that 87% of identified military targets had been neutralized, with minimal casualties to his forces. Curious, mused Science Officer Maexi, her sensors detecting unusual energy fluctuations from the planet. The humans are not responding as anticipated. Explain, demanded Rylax. Previous invasion records indicate they typically launch counterattacks, with their aerospace forces attempting to engage invaders beyond the atmosphere. Yet they've withdrawn remaining units. And these energy readings... She manipulated the holographic display, highlighting strange patterns across the planet. Suggest unusual activity deep underground. Rylax dismissed her concerns. They hide like vermin. Prepare the landing forces. Commander Zoltek, you will lead the ground assault. Commander Zoltek, a battle-scarred veteran whose exoskeleton bore the marks of 100 campaigns, bowed his armored head. It will be my honor, Admiral. The conquest battalions stand ready. Thousands of troop carriers descended through Earth's atmosphere, their hulls glowing red-hot during re-entry. They landed on every continent, disgorging legions of Veskari warriors, 8-foot-tall armored behemoths wielding energy weapons capable of vaporizing human tanks. In the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Feng watched the invasion unfold on monitoring screens. Around her, military leaders from nations around the world coordinated what remained of Earth's conventional forces. The Veskari have established 23 major landing zones, reported General Orson Reed, his Australian accent thick with tension. They're deploying ground forces in standard conquest formation. Feng nodded. Just as the intelligence briefing suggested, they always follow the same playbook. Overwhelm orbital defenses, neutralize military targets, establish ground control. She turned to a woman in a lab coat standing quietly in the corner. Dr. Kazan, what's the status of Prometheus? Dr. Lyra Kazan stepped forward, her dark eyes reflecting the glow of the screens. All systems are green. The network is distributed and operational. We're just waiting for your command. Feng turned back to the tactical display. Let them land more troops. Let them commit their forces. On the surface, the Veskari advance seemed unstoppable. Their mechanized units tore through what remained of human military resistance. Cities fell one by one as the alien forces established control zones, methodically expanding their territory. Commander Zoltek strode through the ruins of what had once been downtown Singapore, surveying the conquered territory with pride. His forces had secured the city with minimal losses, crushing the human defenders who had attempted to make a stand. Commander, one of his subordinates approached. We've captured several humans attempting to access a secured facility beneath the city. Zoltek followed the soldier to where a group of humans, scientists based on their attire, knelt surrounded by Veskari warriors. What were you doing? Zoltek demanded, his translator converting his multi-tonal speech into human language. One woman, older than the others, looked up defiantly. Ensuring your destruction. Zoltek was about to dismiss her threat when his scanner detected an unusual signal emanating from beneath the city. Similar reports began flooding in from Veskari units across the planet, unknown devices activating in the depths of oceans, in mountain ranges, beneath deserts and ice caps. In the command center, Admiral Feng received confirmation that all Prometheus nodes were online. She looked at the assembled leaders, each face grim with the knowledge of what they were about to unleash. "The Veskari believe they know destruction," she said quietly. "It's time to show them what humanity is capable of when pushed to the edge." She placed her palm on the biometric scanner, initiating Prometheus Protocol. Authorization: Feng Ilara, Supreme Commander. Across Earth, thousands of devices simultaneously activated, a network of quantum-entangled machines that began manipulating the fabric of reality itself, the result of decades of reverse engineering alien technologies and combining them with humanity's own relentless innovation. On the Veskari flagship, alarms blared as sensors detected massive energy spikes across the planet's surface. "What is happening?" demanded Admiral Rylax. Before Science Officer Maexi could respond, the space around their fleet began to warp and distort. The very laws of physics seemed to bend as localized gravity wells formed, tearing apart Veskari ships caught in their influence. The Prometheus project had been activated, and the true battle for Earth had begun. The universe seemed to fold in on itself as the Prometheus network came fully online. Gravitational anomalies rippled outward from Earth in concentric waves, catching hundreds of Veskari ships in their destructive embrace. Metal hulls twisted and crumpled like paper under forces they were never designed to withstand. Commander Viridian Drake watched from Lunar Base Alpha, his expression a mixture of awe and horror. "My God," he whispered, "it actually works." The Prometheus project represented humanity's darkest scientific achievement: weaponized manipulation of fundamental forces. The network of devices scattered across Earth created artificial gravity wells, localized time distortions, and controlled quantum field disruptions that specifically targeted Veskari technology. Admiral Rylax clung to his command chair as the flagship shuddered violently. Around him, control systems failed and crew members floated helplessly as artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. "Stabilize!" he roared. "Science officer, explain this attack!" Maexi's tentacles worked frantically across her instruments. "The humans have deployed some form of space-time manipulation technology. Our shields cannot block what appears to be targeted modifications to physical constants within localized fields." "Impossible!" Rylax slammed his armored fist against the console. "No species at their development stage could possess such technology." "Evidently," Maexi replied, her voice tight with scientific fascination despite their peril, "they do. On Earth's surface, the effects were equally devastating to the Veskari ground forces. In major landing zones, invading troops found their energy weapons malfunctioning, power armor failing, and in some cases, their very molecular structure becoming unstable as quantum fields shifted around them. Commander Zoltek watched in horror as one of his elite units simply dissolved, their atomic bonds losing coherence as a strange rippling distortion swept through their position. He activated his emergency communicator. "Admiral, the humans are using weapons beyond our intelligence assessments. Request immediate extraction of ground forces." The response was garbled, communication systems corrupted by the same forces destroying his troops. Zoltek realized with growing dread that the Veskari might have finally encountered a species with the will and capability to defeat them. In bunkers across the planet, what remained of Earth's conventional military forces prepared to counterattack. Unlike the aliens' high-tech weapons, human armaments, based on simple chemical propellants and physical projectiles, remained largely unaffected by the quantum distortions. Colonel Isra Kamal led her battalion out of underground shelters beneath the Egyptian desert, her troops armed with ballistic weapons and primitive but effective explosives. "Remember," she told her soldiers as they emerged to find Veskari troops struggling with malfunctioning equipment, "hit them hard and fast. Their technology is failing, but they're still dangerous. Similar scenes played out globally as humanity launched a coordinated counteroffensive. From the frozen wastes of Antarctica to the megalopolises of North America, human forces struck at disoriented Vescari units. In the Rocky Mountain Command Center, Admiral Fung monitored the battle with grim satisfaction. The Prometheus network was exceeding expectations, crippling Vescari technology while leaving Earth's remaining infrastructure largely intact. "Dr. Kazan," she called, "what's the status of Phase 2? Dr. Kazan looked up from her console. "Neural disruptors coming online now, Admiral." Fong nodded. "Activate them." Across the planet, a new set of devices initiated. Technologies designed to attack the unique neurological structure of Vescari minds. Based on captured data from previous alien invasions, these weapons generated specific frequencies that disrupted the synaptic patterns of Vescari nervous systems while leaving humans unaffected. On the battlefield, alien warriors suddenly dropped to their knees, mandibles clicking in agony as their neural networks misfired. The coordinated Vescari assault collapsed into chaos as command structures failed, and individual soldiers found themselves unable to process sensory information correctly. In lunar orbit, Drake received updated tactical data from Earth. "They're turning the tide," he told Lieutenant Novak with cautious optimism. "The Vescari fleet is in disarray and ground forces are losing cohesion." Novak studied the incoming data. "Sir, there's something else. The Prometheus field is expanding beyond Earth's immediate vicinity. It's reaching toward lunar orbit." Drake frowned. "That wasn't in the briefing. Contact Earth Command immediately." Before Novak could comply, a blinding light erupted from the direction of Earth. A massive gravitational distortion, larger than any previous wave, expanded outward, catching the remainder of the Vescari fleet in its grip. Admiral Rylax watched in disbelief as his mighty armada was torn apart by forces he couldn't comprehend. Ship after ship imploded, crushed by invisible forces or torn apart by spatial anomalies. "Full retreat," he ordered, his pride finally giving way to survival instinct. "All ships capable of hyperspace jump, withdraw immediately." But for many Vescari vessels, the order came too late. The expanding field of distorted physics made hyperspace calculations impossible, trapping them in normal space where the destructive wave could reach them. Humanity had revealed its ultimate weapon, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3. Days after the initial Vescari attack, the remnants of Earth's Defense Council gathered in the scarred but still functional Rocky Mountain facility. Holographic displays showed the current situation. Nearly 70% of the Vescari fleet destroyed, the remaining vessels retreating to the edges of the solar system, and ground forces in disarray across the planet. Admiral Fung studied the casualty reports with a heavy heart. Earth had won, but at terrible cost. Millions of civilians had perished in the initial orbital bombardment. Major cities lay in ruins. The environment had suffered significant damage from both Vescari weapons and the side effects of the Prometheus network. "We've driven them back," General Reed noted, "but they're regrouping at Neptune's orbit. Our long-range sensors indicate they're conducting repairs and appear to be waiting for reinforcements." Dr. Kazan stepped forward, her face haggard from days without sleep. "The Prometheus network can't sustain another full-scale deployment. The quantum dissipation rate exceeds our ability to stabilize the fields. If we activate it again at the same intensity, we risk permanent damage to Earth's gravitational stability." Commander Drake, recently shuttled from lunar base, joined the conversation. "Then we need to take the fight to them before reinforcements arrive." A murmur of disbelief rippled through the assembled leaders. "With what?" demanded General Koshiro Tanaka of the Pan-Asian Alliance. "Our orbital fleet is decimated. We have perhaps 20 combat-capable vessels remaining." Drake's weathered face broke into a grim smile. "We have something better. Permission. To brief them on Operation Harbinger, Admiral?" Fung hesitated momentarily, then nodded. "Proceed." Drake activated a secure data node, revealing schematics that caused even the battle-hardened military leaders to stare in shock. While the Prometheus project focused on planetary defense, Operation Harbinger represents our offensive capability, Drake explained. For the past decade, we've been reverse engineering propulsion and weapon systems from previous alien invasions. The result is this: the EDF Retribution. The holographic display showed an immense warship hidden within the asteroid belt. A vessel unlike anything humanity had publicly acknowledged building. She's fitted with hybrid technology, human innovation combined with adapted alien systems. Most importantly, her primary weapons aren't affected by the same quantum interference that disrupts Veskari technology, because they operate on principles we developed independently. Admiral Fung stood. The Retribution was our contingency plan, if Prometheus failed. Now it represents our best chance to end this threat before reinforcements arrive. Within hours, the decision was made. The Retribution would lead Earth's remaining military vessels in a desperate attack against the regrouping Veskari forces. Commander Drake would take operational command of the mission. As preparations accelerated, Dr. Kazan approached Drake privately. "There's something you should know about the Retribution's core systems," she said quietly. "The quantum displacement drive isn't fully tested. In theory, it can generate enough power to tear a hole in space-time itself, potentially devastating the Veskari fleet, but the consequences of unleashing that much energy are unpredictable." Drake nodded solemnly. "Sometimes unpredictable is all we have left." 3 days later, the Retribution emerged from its hiding place in the asteroid belt. At nearly 2 kilometers long, its angular hull bristled with weapon systems derived from both Earth and alien technologies. The remaining human military vessels, a motley collection of retrofitted warships and hastily armed civilian craft, fell into formation behind it. On the bridge of the massive vessel, Commander Drake took his position in the captain's chair, surveying his crew, the best pilots, engineers, and tactical officers Earth had to offer. "Communications, open a channel to all ships," he ordered. "Channel open, sir." Drake paused, gathering his thoughts. "This is Commander Drake to all Earth Defense Force vessels. What we attempt today has never been done before. We take the fight directly to an enemy that believed us primitive and weak. They came to our home expecting easy conquest. Instead, they found that humanity possesses a strength they never anticipated. Not just in our weapons, but in our refusal to surrender." The bridge remained silent as he continued. "The Veskari have conquered 1,000 worlds because species fight conventionally, predictably. We don't have that luxury. We will use every dirty trick, every unexpected tactic, every desperate gambit at our disposal. Make no mistake, this is not a noble battle. This is survival, and we will do whatever is necessary." He looked at the tactical display showing the Veskari fleet near Neptune. "Set course for Neptune. All ships, prepare for combat operations." As the Earth fleet accelerated toward the outer solar system, tension mounted. Intelligence suggested the Veskari reinforcements would arrive within 18 hours, a narrow window for humanity's counterattack. Aboard the Veskari flagship, now heavily damaged but still operational, Admiral Rylax struggled to understand how a seemingly primitive species had inflicted such devastation on his forces. "The humans should not possess this level of technology," he insisted, reviewing the battle data. "Our intelligence indicated they were centuries behind our development." Science Officer Maexi, one of her tentacles now severed from battle damage, manipulated the holographic display. "I believe I understand now. The humans did not develop this technology independently. They adapted it from previous contact with other species. Each invasion taught them something new, which they synthesized with remarkable speed." Rylax's compound eyes narrowed. "You mean each species that failed to conquer them made them stronger?" "Precisely," Maexi confirmed. "And now they approach, with a vessel unlike anything in our records." On the main viewport, the human fleet appeared, accelerating toward the Vescari position with unmistakable purpose. The space between Earth and Neptune became a cosmic battlefield as the human fleet engaged the remaining Vescari forces. Traditional naval tactics dissolved in the vacuum of space, replaced by three-dimensional combat maneuvers that pushed both sides' navigational systems to their limits. On the bridge of the Retribution, Commander Drake coordinated the assault. Unlike conventional military chains of command, he had instituted a fluid command structure that allowed for immediate tactical adaptation, a lesson learned from centuries of guerrilla warfare on Earth. Tactical, status of Vescari defensive. Formations, Drake demanded as the massive human vessel shuddered under enemy fire. Lieutenant Kira Novak, now serving as tactical officer, analyzed the holographic battlefield display. They're arranging into a thoraxis defense pattern, interlocking fields of fire designed to funnel us into predetermined kill zones. Drake smiled grimly. Just as expected, they're still fighting by the book. Execute Operation Scatter. The Earth fleet, which had been advancing in tight formation, suddenly dispersed in what appeared to be chaotic disarray. To traditional military doctrine, it looked like a panicked retreat, precisely what the Vescari expected from a less experienced species. Admiral Rylax observed the human maneuver with satisfaction. Their formation breaks. These primitives revert to instinct when pressed. Target the largest vessels and eliminate them one by one. But the apparent chaos concealed methodical purpose. Earth's ships weren't fleeing. They were executing a complex dance designed specifically to disrupt Vescari, targeting algorithms. Their seemingly random movements followed mathematical patterns derived from studying previous invasions. The humans are behaving unusually, Mayaxi noted with concern. Their flight patterns defy conventional tactical analysis. Before Rylax could respond, multiple human vessels disappeared from sensors, reappearing seconds later in completely different positions. The smaller Earth ships had activated short-range quantum displacement drives, technology reversed engineered from salvaged, alien craft and refined with human ingenuity. Impossible! Rylax roared as human vessels materialized within the Vescari formation, unleashing devastating point-blank attacks before vanishing again. No species deploys experimental technology in active combat, but humans had always done exactly that. Throughout their history, they had field-tested unproven weapons and tactics when facing existential threats. The risks of failure paled compared to the certainty of extinction. Aboard the Retribution, Dr. Kazan monitored the quantum displacement systems with growing concern. Commander, the micro-jumps are destabilizing the drive core. We can't maintain this attack pattern much longer. Drake nodded. We don't need to. The quantum jumps were just the distraction. Deploy the EMPP charges. Throughout the battlefield, specially designed Earth vessels released thousands of small objects that drifted seemingly harmlessly among the Vescari ships. These electromagnetic pulse parasites, another human innovation, attached to Vescari hulls using synthetic molecularly adaptive surfaces. Sir, EMPP deployment at 87%, reported Novak. Vescari point defenses are targeting them, but most are getting through. Drake waited until the deployment reached 90%. Detonate! Across the Vescari fleet, the attached devices simultaneously exploded in precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses, each one tuned specifically to the frequencies used by Vescari systems. Ships lost power, weapons went offline, and communications failed as cascading system failures rippled through the alien vessels. On the inevitable conquest, Admiral Rylax struggled to maintain control as primary and backup systems failed simultaneously. Emergency. Power! Reroute all available energy to defensive systems, he ordered, but his commands fell on deaf ears as the bridge crew fought to restore basic functions. Science Officer Mayaxi worked frantically at her station. The pulses were precisely modulated to our shield frequencies. They must have analyzed our technology during the Earth engagement. For the first time in his long military career, Rylax felt genuine fear. The humans weren't fighting like a species, defending itself. They were fighting like predators who had lured their prey into a trap. With the Veskari fleet temporarily crippled, Drake ordered the Retribution to advance toward the flagship. The massive human vessel pushed its engines beyond safe parameters, closing the distance with alarming speed. "Commander," Dr. Kazan warned, "we're detecting quantum signatures consistent with hyperspace ruptures forming at the edge of the system. Veskari reinforcements are arriving ahead of schedule." Drake's expression hardened. "Then we finish this now. Prepare the Singularity Lance." The Retribution's main weapon, a terrifying application of controlled gravitational collapse, had never been field-tested. In theory, it could create a momentary micro-singularity that would tear apart anything caught in its gravitational shear. As the weapon systems powered up, drawing enormous energy from the ship's quantum core, strange distortions appeared around. The Retribution. Space itself seemed to bend and warp as fundamental forces were manipulated in ways never intended by nature. "Singularity Lance at 60% capacity," reported the weapons officer, her voice tight with tension. "Core temperature exceeding safety parameters." "Continue charging," Drake ordered. "Target the Veskari flagship." On the inevitable conquest, systems were gradually coming back online as emergency protocols activated. Rylax watched in growing horror as the human vessel approached, its hull surrounded by unnatural spatial distortions. "All ships," he commanded, "concentrate fire on that vessel. Use any weapons still functioning." But it was too late. The Retribution had closed to optimal firing range, its main weapon now fully charged and targeted on the Veskari flagship. "Singularity. Lance ready," announced the weapons officer. Drake took a deep breath. "Fire." The Singularity Lance activated with a strange absence of visible effect. For a brief, eternal moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality itself appeared to fold. Inward toward the Veskari flagship, space warped around the inevitable conquest, light bending impossibly as gravitational forces billions of times stronger than a neutron star compressed into a focused beam. The massive alien vessel didn't explode. It imploded, crumpling inward, like paper in a fist, before vanishing into a pinpoint of absolute darkness that winked out of existence an instant later. The micro-singularity collapsed under its own hawking radiation, leaving nothing but scattered debris where the pride of the Veskari fleet had been. Stunned silence fell over the Retribution's bridge, broken only by the warning alarms indicating dangerous system overloads throughout the ship. "Target eliminated," reported Lieutenant Novak, her voice barely above a whisper. "Confirming complete destruction of the Veskari flagship." But the victory came at terrible cost. The Retribution shuddered violently as power surges cascaded through its systems. Conduits ruptured, panels exploded, and emergency bulkheads slammed shut throughout the vessel. "Core containment failing," Dr. Kazan announced, her fingers flying across controls. "The quantum displacement matrix is destabilizing. We can't fire the weapon again without risking total core collapse." Drake gripped the arms of his command chair as the deck bucked beneath him. "We don't need to. Send the tactical data to all remaining Earth vessels. Target the Veskari secondary command ships with conventional weapons. With their flagship destroyed and their admiral presumably dead, the remaining Veskari vessels fell into disarray. The coordinated defense that had made them so formidable fractured into individual ships fighting for survival. The human fleet pressed their advantage, targeting key vessels with ruthless efficiency. Ships that had been considered primitive by Veskari standards demonstrated tactical flexibility that confounded the alien warriors' rigid battle doctrine. At the edge of the solar system, the hyperspace ruptures widened as Veskari reinforcements began to emerge, a second invasion fleet twice the size of the first. The front vessels of this armada emerged into normal space just in time to witness the destruction of their comrades. Commander Drake assessed the situation with grim calculation. The reinforcements would overwhelm what remained of Earth's fleet, but not before the humans inflicted severe damage. The question wasn't whether they could win. It was whether they could make victory so costly that the Veskari would never return. "Dr. Kazan," he said quietly, "what would happen if we deliberately collapsed the quantum core?" The scientist paled. The resulting explosion would create a cascading quantum field disruption. It would destroy everything within half an AU, possibly more, including the hyperspace entry point where the reinforcements are emerging. "Yes," she confirmed, "but we'd never escape the blast radius." Drake nodded, then opened a channel to the remaining Earth vessels. "All ships, break off engagement and retreat to minimum safe distance. The Retribution will handle the reinforcements." On the bridge of the EDF Defiant, Captain Octavia Rivera received Drake's transmission with growing horror. "Commander, you can't be serious. There must be another way." Drake's voice came back steady and resolved. "There isn't time to find one. The calculations are clear. If that reinforcement fleet reaches Earth, the Prometheus network won't be able to stop them. Sometimes the only way to win is to change the rules of engagement entirely." Aboard the Retribution, Drake ordered all non-essential personnel to evacuation shuttles. "Anyone who can't directly help with this final mission, abandon ship now," as crew members rushed to escape pods. Drake, Dr. Kazan, and a skeleton crew remained to guide the wounded vessel directly toward the hyperspace rupture, where Veskari reinforcements continued to emerge. "Engineering reports the quantum core can be triggered to collapse in a controlled sequence," Dr. Kazan reported. "I've programmed the detonation to occur at the exact moment we reach the hyperspace entry point." Drake nodded, looking around at the remaining crew members who had chosen to stay. Each face showed the same determination, the fierce resolve of humans protecting their home. "It has been the highest honor serving with each of you," he said simply. The Retribution accelerated toward its final destination, systems failing throughout the ship as the damaged vessel pushed beyond its limits. Veskari ships fired desperately at the approaching human warship, sensing the danger but unable to stop its advance. In her final moments, the great ship plunged into the midst of the emerging Veskari reinforcement fleet, reaching the precise coordinates where the fabric between normal space and hyperspace was thinnest. Dr. Kazan looked up from her console, meeting Drake's eyes. "Core collapse initiated." Drake nodded, thinking of Earth, blue and beautiful, now with a fighting chance for survival. For humanity. The quantum core detonated, creating not just an explosion but a rupture in space-time itself. The controlled collapse expanded outward, catching dozens of Veskari vessels in its embrace and propagating back through the hyperspace conduit they had created. From a safe distance, Captain Rivera and the remaining Earth fleet watched as a new star, briefly, blossomed in the outer solar system, the funeral pyre of the Retribution and her crew, and the destruction of the Veskari reinforcements. When the light faded and sensors could function again, they confirmed that the hyperspace rupture had collapsed catastrophically. The remaining Veskari vessels, cut off from retreat and reinforcement, were scattered and vulnerable. Captain Rivera opened a channel to all Earth ships. "This is Captain Rivera taking command of the Earth Defense Fleet. Commander Drake and the crew of the Retribution have given us this chance. Let's make sure their sacrifice wasn't in vain." The human vessels moved forward as one, engaging the remaining Veskari ships with renewed purpose. It wasn't just a battle anymore. It was a message to the galaxy. Humanity would not be conquered. 1 year after the Battle of Neptune, Admiral Ilara Fung stood in the newly constructed Memorial Plaza in what had once been Geneva. Before her stretched rows of obsidian monoliths, each etched with the names of those who had fallen defending Earth. At the center stood a larger monument, a perfect replica of the Retribution carved from gleaming titanium and black marble. The scars of the Veskari invasion remained visible across the planet, ruined cities being rebuilt, ecosystems healing from weapons impacts, societies adapting to a new reality. But humanity had survived, and more than that, they had sent a message to the galaxy. "Admiral," a voice interrupted her thoughts. Captain Rivera approached, now wearing the insignia of fleet commander. "The council is assembling for your address." Feng nodded, following Rivera to the newly constructed United Earth Government headquarters. Representatives from every nation gathered in the assembly chamber, along with scientific leaders, military commanders, and civilian administrators who had guided Earth's recovery efforts. As Feng took the podium, silence fell over the assembly. "1 year ago," she began, "we faced extinction at the hands of an enemy that believed they understood destruction. They came with overwhelming force, superior technology, and absolute confidence in their victory. They left us with a choice: submit or perish." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the chamber. But they failed to understand something fundamental about humanity. Throughout our history, we have faced extinction-level threats, from nature, from ourselves, and now from the stars. Each time, we have not just survived, we have emerged stronger. Holographic. Displays activated around the chamber, showing images from the battle, Earth ships engaging Veskari vessels, the Prometheus network activating, and finally, the distant flare of the Retribution's sacrifice. The Veskari believed they knew destruction, because they had witnessed the fall of 1,000 worlds. What they failed to comprehend was that those species fought conventionally, predictably, according to understood rules of engagement. Humanity has never had that luxury. We have always fought dirty, desperately, doing whatever was necessary to survive. She touched a control, and the display changed to show current images. Recovery efforts, new defensive installations, and most significantly, the first human vessels equipped with reverse-engineered hyperspace drives. From this day forward, humanity will no longer wait for threats to reach us. The United Earth Space Force is hereby established with a dual mandate: exploration and defense. We will seek out new civilizations, establish diplomatic relations, where possible, and ensure that what happened here never happens again, not to us, not to any peaceful species. The assembly erupted in applause that gradually faded as Feng raised her hand. "Make no mistake," Feng continued, her voice hardening. "We do not seek conquest. We do not desire empire, but the galaxy now knows what we are capable of when threatened, and we will never again be caught unprepared." In the front row, Dr. Lyra Kazan listened intently. The Prometheus project had been decommissioned, its power too great, its potential for misuse too tempting. But its legacy lived on in the new technologies humanity now possessed. "The Veskari survivors have retreated beyond our reach," Feng continued. "Our long-range probes indicate they've withdrawn to their core systems. Intelligence suggests they're debating whether Earth is worth the cost of another invasion. Let us ensure they conclude it is not." The assembly chamber darkened as a final hologram appeared. The quantum signature of the Retribution's last moments, a burst of energy that had rippled across multiple dimensions and could still be detected by sensitive instruments a year later. "Commander, Drake and the crew of the Retribution did not just save Earth. They changed the equation. For millennia, advanced species have seen less developed worlds as easy conquests. The Veskari were merely the latest to make this calculation. What happened in our solar system has sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. We have proven that technological superiority alone does not guarantee victory." The lights came up as Feng concluded her address. "We stand at a crossroads. We can retreat behind our defenses, hoping no one else challenges us, or we can step forward into the galactic community on our own terms. The United Earth Government has chosen the latter path. Operation Starfall begins today. In high orbit, above Earth, a new fleet had assembled, vessels incorporating both human ingenuity and adapted alien technology. The flagship, appropriately named Phoenix, represented humanity's rebirth as a spacefaring civilization. Aboard the Phoenix, Captain Octavia Rivera surveyed her bridge crew. They represented the best of humanity: scientists, soldiers, diplomats, and explorers united in common purpose. "Navigation," she ordered. "Set course for the Proxima Centauri system. Let's introduce ourselves to the neighbors." As the Phoenix and its escort vessels activated their hyperspace drives, technology once thought centuries beyond human capability, the quantum wake of their passage rippled across the fabric of space-time. Throughout the galaxy, advanced civilizations detected the signature and recognized its implications. A new player had entered the cosmic stage, a species that had not only survived the Veskari, but had defeated them decisively. In the heart of Veskari territory, the High Command convened in their sacred chamber, the atmosphere heavy with the pheromones of fear and uncertainty. Grand Admiral Zex Krull, who had replaced the fallen Rylax, addressed the assembled commanders. "The human counterattack destroyed our primary invasion fleet and collapsed a stable hyperspace corridor, something no other species has accomplished. Our analysis indicates they accomplished in months what takes other races centuries: the adaptation and improvement of alien technology." One commander raised an armored limb. "Should we prepare another invasion force? With our combined might?" "No," interrupted Zex Krull. "The eternal conquest must avoid human territory. The resources required to subjugate them would leave our core worlds vulnerable, and the outcome remains uncertain." For the first time in 10,000 years, the Veskari Empire adjusted its expansion plans to avoid a specific region of space. The humans had earned something rare in the cold calculation of galactic politics: respect born of fear. On Earth, as cities rose from ruins and humanity looked to the stars with new purpose, the legend of the Retribution and its final stand became part of collective consciousness. Schools taught children about the Battle of Neptune, alongside ancient conflicts like Thermopylae and the Alamo, moments when the outnumbered and outgunned had changed the course of history through sacrifice and ingenuity. In the Memorial Plaza, as night fell and the crowds dispersed, Admiral Feng remained alone before the monument. She placed her hand on the cold stone bearing Commander Drake's name. "You were right, old friend," she whispered. "Sometimes the only way to win is to change the rules entirely." Above her, stars twinkled in the night sky, no longer distant points of light, but destinations. Humanity had survived its trial by fire and emerged transformed. They had shown the galaxy that they understood destruction better than anyone, and that knowledge had made them formidable indeed. The species that had spent millennia fighting themselves had turned that terrible expertise outward when necessary, and in doing so had earned their place among the stars. Not as conquerors, not as victims, but as equals to be reckoned with. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human expansion had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.